whole time. He was still on the phone as she started to muster up the effort to get out of the car. She eased her swollen belly in the vague direction she wanted her body to go in, hoping the rest would follow. Looking down at the carefully chosen acre of magenta polycotton flowing in all directions over her lumps and bumps, she hoped she looked like a woman in control of her pregnancy. But the memory of the lack of control that had landed her here in the first place led to the all-too-familiar sensation of a fist grasping tightly around her heart. She looked over her shoulder, seeking Ben for some reassurance, and caught sight of his knees for the first time, which were decorated in school pitch mud. "Your knees?" she exclaimed, pointing at the offending items. "I am not proposing now," said Ben in mock anger. She shook her head in despair, took a deep breath and set off towards the hospital entrance. She thought she'd pretty much nailed life until this. All the big boxes had been ticked: university, career, homeowner. Admittedly, the marriage box had remained conspicuously empty, but that was exactly the way she wanted it. A truly traumatic experience with her first love as a teenager had left her heart never quite able to recover its full emotional capacity. Since then, the slightest flutter of love had alerted her to heartbreak fast approaching, allowing her to lock down the situation quickly with a clean and swift breakup. She knew this approach had served her well over the years, as she watched her friends suffer the humiliation of being dumped from a great height over and over again. She had lost count of how many times her friends had declared that they had met the one. It saddened her to know that approximately 2 weeks later, they would be on her doorstep sobbing out a tragic but predictable tale of the one, clearly not thinking she was the one, by getting caught with another one. She would patiently pour the wine whilst they poured out their hearts, until inevitably the night would end in drunken dancing and singing round her dining room table to boy band music. Then there would be an emotional love-in, where they told her she was the best friend in the world. Finally, in the early hours, one of them would throw up over the balcony. It amazed her that they couldn't learn that if they put their heart out there for someone, they would be cast aside as carelessly as last season's away kit as soon as the next piece of skirt passed by. These days, though, nights spent consoling the lovesick seemed to have dried up. One by one, they had finally all found a man who appeared to want a relationship for longer than 5 minutes, and had enjoyed the weddings they had always dreamed of. She had, in her opinion, suffered 2 years of near mental torture as the cream invites lined up frighteningly quickly on her living room shelf. Her heart sank every time she picked up yet another painstakingly selected envelope, which no doubt had been chosen to match the bride's knicker elastic, and tipped out the invitation, handmade by the future bride herself. She would close her eyes in despair as she read the words, "Miss Katy Chapman and partner." Why, oh why, was it the law to go to weddings as a couple? Why couldn't she just go on her own? Was there some terrible fear that single people at weddings were bound to run off with the bride or groom given half the chance? Was it one of the wedding vows? "Thou shalt always have attached friends to prevent any possibility of straying." It made her dread the so-called happy events, forced as she was to find some random chap she had once had a drunken snog with, who in exchange for free food and alcohol could endure the steady stream of well-meaning relatives saying, "So, will it be you next?" Eventually, she had decided enough was enough, and that she should make a stand for all strong, independent women and stop pandering to the stereotype that happiness was attached to a man. When she was next invited to a wedding, she made the genius decision to take Daniel from the advertising agency where she worked. The look on the face of Laura's great-aunt, who was making polite conversation during the wedding breakfast, was a joy to behold. Daniel sweetly told her that yes, it could be him next, as he had been seeing his boyfriend Rob for over 6 months now, and neither of them were having sex with anyone else. Unless you count